Have you ever put your whole heart into writing a message, erased it, and typed it again only to be met with silence? It's like shouting into the void in a crowded room. The silence seems louder than any rejection, and you start to question whether you said something wrong, whether you're not good enough, and whether you should try harder. But here's the harsh truth. The further you run, the further they run. Running to get their attention not only confirms their power, but it also steals your honor one message at a time. So why do we do it? Why do we feel like we need to fix silence? You're here because you're sick of feeling like you're not being noticed and are sick of being treated like an afterthought. The problem is that most people come to this situation in a state of desperation, thinking that explaining, justifying, or apologizing for their presence is the answer. But Stoicism teaches us one important lesson. Control what you can and let go of what you can. You can't make someone reply, but you can control how you react to their lack of interest. Today, I'm going to show you 6 strong ways to change the script. These aren't just tricks, they're real tools based on self-respect and emotional intelligence. When you use them, you won't just break the silence, you'll make them disappear, want to be with you. Each step will force you to reclaim your worth, change the subject, and tell them that their attention is a gift, not a right. I promise that if you learn these techniques, you'll stop pleading for attention and start getting it without having to say a single word of desperation. Quiet power plays to people's natural desire to know more. This is about being the most powerful version of yourself, sure of yourself, and unforgettable. Are you ready to stop chasing and start attracting? Are you ready to reclaim your power? If so, keep reading, because what I'm about to share will change the way you deal with silence for good. Let's start with the most powerful response of all. Saying nothing. Let the silence hurt you. The silent sting. Let your time be there. Have you ever noticed that silence is the loudest thing you can say? When someone ignores you, your first thought might be to do something, like send them another text or ask them to explain themselves. But here's the paradox. By chasing them, you teach them to devalue you even more. Imagine you're holding a handful of sand, and the tighter you grip it, the faster it slips through your fingers. The same is true for attention. The more you hold on, the less valuable you seem. So what happens when you stop holding on? What happens when you just let go? That's where the power lies. When someone ignores you, they expect you to respond. They expect a follow-up message, an apology, or an emotional outburst. They expect you to fill the silence to reassure them of your interest. But when you don't, when you meet their lack of interest with calm, deliberate silence, it forces them to face something unexpected. The void you leave behind is not weakness or passivity. As the Stoics knew, the best way to get back at someone who hurt you is to be different from them. That's why when they pull away, you don't chase them. You pull away too calmly and confidently, reminding them that their presence is optional and not guaranteed. Let me ask you something. If someone constantly ignores you, are they really worth your time? If you can lose their attention so easily, should you be trying to get it back? Silence makes them think about these things on their own. You don't argue or explain, you just disappear, leaving them to wonder what happened. Why aren't they reaching out? Did I lose them? This is how the plan works in your mind. People don't realize how valuable something is until it's gone. When you leave, your words, warmth, and hard work leave a hole they can't fill. It's like turning off a light in a dark room. The sudden lack of that glow is too much for them to handle, and they start to miss things they used to ignore. This is where Stoicism comes in handy again. Silence isn't a way to control other people. It shows what your limits are. You're not being quiet because you want them to chase you. You're being quiet because you don't want to beg for attention that isn't yours. Your silence says, I respect myself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve me. If you keep giving your energy to someone who doesn't value it, you'll be like a broken vase trying to hold water. No matter how much you give, it will leak out and leave you empty. But when you stop giving, the empty feeling is clear, and sometimes that's all they need to wake up. I know what you're thinking. Will being quiet make me seem rude or cold? Not at all. Being quiet is not mean. Clarity? You're not ghosting them or playing games. You're just choosing to match their energy. If they've pulled away, you step back. If they don't respond, you stop asking questions. Your actions, or lack thereof, will reflect their behavior back to them like a mirror. Here's where it gets powerful. Over time, they'll start to notice the silence and realize you haven't double texted, checked in, or begged for answers. That realization will hurt more than anything you could say. They'll start to wonder, did I mess up? Why aren't I reaching out? What if I lost them? The quiet sting is beautiful because it keeps your honor safe. You're not lowering yourself to chase someone who isn't meeting you halfway. Instead, you're showing them without words that your presence is a privilege, and that kind of quiet confidence is magnetic. But here's the key to making this work. You must be willing to accept their silence as an answer if they don't notice your absence or if they don't return. That's your cue to move on. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot control. You cannot force someone to see your value, but you can choose to honor yourself by walking away. Let me leave you with this thought. What's more powerful than begging for attention, walking away and letting your absence remind them of your worth? Silence is not empty, it's full of answers. It forces them to confront the reality of their actions and the consequences of taking you for granted. So I challenge you, the next time someone ignores you, resist the urge to chase. Don't explain, don't justify, don't beg. Let the silence speak for you. Because sometimes the strongest statement you can make is simply not saying anything at all. If this resonates with you, take a moment to comment below. Silence speaks volumes. Let's take back our power together and let everyone know that our worth doesn't depend on what other people say. 2. The trail plan spark. 2. The strategy of breadcrumbs. Spark want to know, not desperation. Not desperation, but interest. Imagine sending a sincere, well-thought-out message, but instead of getting a response, you get silence. Your first instinct might be to fix it by sending another message to explain yourself or prove your worth, but stop and ask yourself why you feel the need to chase. What does putting in more effort accomplish when the other person has already chosen not to respond? The truth is that desperation is not attractive. It pushes people away when you over-explain or send long, emotional paragraphs. It doesn't lead to connection. It shows that you are easy to guess, hungry and simple to forget. Stoicism teaches us to be calm and determined when faced with silence, you don't blow things up, you stay cool. Here's where the breadcrumb approach comes in. It's subtle, on purpose, and incredibly effective. Instead of sending them everything you think of, you drop just enough to get them interested. A breadcrumb doesn't ask for attention, it gives it. It leaves people wondering, it stays in their thoughts, and most importantly, it changes the power. Changeable. As an example, have you ever been reading a book and had to turn the page because you had to know what happened next? That's the psychological pull you're making when you use trails in your messages. Imagine this scenario instead of sending a desperate follow-up, like, hey, why haven't you replied, you write? You just crossed my mind, interesting timing. Put that message on hold for a moment. It's not clear what it means, it's open-ended, and they can't ignore it without at least thinking why they thought of me at that time. You've changed the energy all of a sudden. You're no longer chasing them, they're interested. Here is one more example. I saw something that made me think of you, but it's hard to explain what this does. It makes them curious, and now they're thinking about you instead of you thinking about them. It's in our nature to want to finish what we start when someone leaves an unfinished sentence, a vague message, or an ignored hint. This is why breadcrumbs work. They help us finish what we start. That's how we're set up. We want things to be clear, and when you leave breadcrumbs, you make a tiny but enticing hole that draws them back to you. Think about this line. I learned something new about you today. Is that a praise or a funny thing? What a remark, a revelation. That's what makes it powerful. It's short, simple, and leaves nothing out. It's not that you want their attention, you're gaining it by leaving them with a question. But here's the important thing. You have to control your urge to explain yourself if they ask what you realized or what made you think of me at that time. Only then can you give them a well thought out answer, but even that answer should be short, light, and interesting, so you're not letting all your feelings out on them. You put down seeds and watch them grow. Stoicism teaches us that we are in charge of our own lives. You can't change how someone responds to your words, but you can change what you send them. Breadcrumbs show confidence, self control, and emotional intelligence. They let people know that you're interesting. You're not trying to get attention, you're creating it. Let me show you another picture to help you understand this approach. If you throw a net into the water and drag it hard, the fish will run away. But if you drop a single well-placed hook, the fish will come to you on their own. That's what breadcrumbing is all about. It's subtle, patient, and enticing. What do you think is stronger, leaving them guessing what you're thinking or asking for a response? When you leave breadcrumbs, you show them that you're not desperate and are confident enough to let them come to you. That kind of quiet confidence is powerful. Now, let me talk about something important. Breadcrumbing isn't manipulation. It's not about playing games or tricking someone into responding. It's about creating genuine intrigue and reestablishing the respect they may have forgotten to give you. When you send a breadcrumb message, you're saying, "I'm still here, but I'm not chasing you." My presence is worth wondering about. This approach doesn't just shift their perception, it shifts yours too. It reminds you that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your words, when used wisely, are enough. And your silence, when paired with the right message, can speak louder than any follow-up ever could. I want you to try something today. The next time someone ignores you, stop yourself from sending that long emotional message. Instead, drop a breadcrumb, keep it short, light, and intriguing. Leave them wondering, and then wait. If they don't respond, you haven't lost anything. You've just reinforced your self-worth. And if they do respond, you'll know it's because you earned their curiosity, not because you begged for their attention. If this strategy resonates with you, I want you to take action right now. Like this video and drop a comment below with the words number 1. If you're ready to stop chasing and start using your words with accuracy and power, hit that subscribe button right now. If you haven't already, do so you don't miss the next strategies that will completely change how you connect with people. Don't forget that this is just the start. When you know your worth, you don't have to beg for attention. People can't ignore you. 3. Pull the rug. Be unpredictable. 3. Pull the rug. Be unpredictable. What happens when you've been ignored for a long time? Do you start to sound predictable? Do you find yourself sending the same follow-ups with the same hate? Did you see my message over and over? Here's the truth. Predictability is boring. It doesn't give the other person a reason to engage with you again. Think about it. Why do we love plot twists in movies? Because it wakes us up, grabs our attention, and forces us to pay attention. The same thing goes for when someone ignores you. If they think they know what you're going to say next, you need to change the subject. You need to pull the rug out from under them. It's not rude or manipulative to pull the rug out from under someone. It's about sending messages that are bold, surprising, and meant to make them stop and think. When someone ignores you, you're no longer playing by their rules. You're reintroducing surprise. Take a look at this message. You know what? Don't worry about it. It's only 4 words, but it works like magic because it throws them off guard. Suddenly, they're not thinking about why they didn't reply. They're wondering what they were going to say. You change the situation so that they're now playing your words, not you. Or try this. Wow, I didn't expect that from you. This message is vague but powerful. It doesn't accuse or explain. It plants a seed of doubt. They'll wonder what they were expecting and whether they did something wrong. What do they mean? You made a question that only you can answer, and here's the best part. The more interested they are, the more likely they are to answer. Another good example. Guess I'll have to find someone else for this idea. Too bad, you would have been great. What makes this so strong? Appeals to their sense of being left out and missed chances. It's awful to feel like you're being ignored or replaced. This message is light and even funny, but it has a subtle sting that wakes them up. Suddenly, they're not ignoring you anymore. They're wondering why they were left behind. This isn't about begging or pleading, it's about confidence. You're showing them that you're not predictable and that you're not waiting for their response to prove your worth. People sit up and pay attention when you have that much energy, but time is important. If you've been ignored, don't send these messages right away. Let the silence last for a while so they can notice your absence. Then, when you send a bold, surprising message, it hits them even harder and makes them rethink what they thought about you. Stoicism shows us how important it is to think through our actions before we act on them. If you don't react emotionally, don't send messages out of anger or fear. Take your time and act carefully. When you pull the rug out from under someone, it's not out of anger, it's to remind them of something, that they can't take you for granted. This is the great thing about this strategy. It makes them see you in a new way. Maybe they thought you'd always be there, always chasing, always the same. But when you send them a message that changes their minds, you show them something new, you show them strength, and you show them that you're not afraid to leave someone who treats you like an option. Imagine someone watching a movie and knowing every plot twist, scene, and ending. They lose interest, but when the story suddenly surprises them, they lean in, pay attention, and start to wonder what happens next. That's the effect you're creating when you pull the rug. This isn't about being petty, it's about reclaiming your power. It's about saying, I'm not here to chase you. I'm here to remind you that I'm someone worth noticing. Now I want to challenge you. The next time someone ignores you, don't send the usual follow-up. Instead, pick one of these. What the heck? I didn't expect that from you. I guess I'll have to get this idea from someone else. Keep it short and vague, and most importantly, don't describe yourself. Let them wonder, and their interest will bring them back to you. At this point, you may be wondering what to do if they still don't answer. That's where Stoicism comes in. Don't let it bother you. Don't let someone else's lack of interest affect you. Say what you're worth. You have shown confidence and unpredictability, and that's enough. You're not here to beg for attention. You're here to act in a way that shows you respect yourself. So, are you ready to stop being predictable? Are you ready to change the script and show them you're not someone they can ignore? If this message speaks to you, please like this video and leave a comment below saying that you're ready to embrace unpredictability and reclaim your power. Also, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button to keep learning these powerful tools to change the game in your favor. Because remember this, the most attractive people are the ones you can't quite figure out. They're sure they're unexpected. And when you start pulling the rug out from under them, that's exactly who you become. Someone they can't ignore, someone they can't stop thinking about, and this is just the beginning. There's more to come, so don't go anywhere else. The hook. They can't get stuck in their mind. Have you ever had a song get stuck in your head? You hear it once, maybe just a few notes, and then it won't go away no matter how hard you try. That's the power of a hook. Imagine if your words could have the same effect. What if a single message could play over and over in their mind long after they've read it? When someone ignores you, it's not always because they're busy or not interested. Sometimes it's because your message didn't leave a mark, make them think, or stand out from the noise. That's where the hook comes in, a message so thought-provoking and interesting that they can't help but respond. But let's be clear, this isn't about being needy or demanding attention. It's about speaking with intent. Stoicism teaches us to act deliberately and avoid emotional overreactions instead of chasing someone with bland follow-ups or desperate pleas. You use exact, well-chosen words to get them to stop thinking and respond. Let me show you how it works. Picture sending this message. I learned something new about you that really blows my mind. Read that again. What does it mean? It sets a seed. It's vague but personal. People will be curious and confident, and they'll wonder what they realized. Is it good or bad? What are they thinking about me? They won't be able to shake it off because their brain needs closure. Or try this one. I can't believe I never noticed this about you before. This line is irresistible because it makes people curious. What did they notice? Is it something important? Why didn't I see this coming? It's simple, but full of emotional weight. Have you ever thought about how you do that thing you're so good at? This message does two things at once. It makes them curious and gently compliments them. It makes them think about their strengths, what makes them special, and how you notice something about them. Brings their attention back to you in a way that doesn't seem desperate but rather thoughtful. The great thing about the hook is that it doesn't ask for attention, it gives it. It's not a matter of whether they'll answer. It's a matter of how long they'll wait before they finally ask, "What do you mean? Why does this work so well?" Because people are naturally curious and want to know what's going on. When you leave something out, they can't help but try to fill in the blanks. It's like starting a story and then leaving it unfinished. Their mind fills in the blanks by trying to find the missing parts. Now, this is where Stoicism comes in handy. Your words are strong, but only when you don't say too much. Hook is small and powerful. If you talk too much, people will lose interest. If you talk too little, people will lose trust. It's important to say just enough to get them interested and let them think of what else to say. Let's get more specific. Imagine tying your hook to something you know they care about. For example, if they love art, you could say, "I just saw a painting that reminded me of something you once said. It's crazy how accurate you were." This message works on many levels. It connects with their interests, it compliments them subtly, and it gives them a thought they need to solve. They'll be curious about what painting it is. What did I say? How well did I do? Now your message is a puzzle instead of a text, and people love solving puzzles, especially ones that are about themselves. But here's how to master the hook. If you're confident, you don't have to be anxiously waiting for them to respond. Just drop the hook and let it work its magic. Whether they respond right away or hours later, you'll know that your words are stuck in their mind like a song they can't stop humming. Would you rather send a desperate message that gets ignored or a single line that makes them think about you for hours? The choice is clear. When you use the hook, you're not just sending a message, you're making an impact. You're showing that you're thoughtful, interesting, and worth their attention. Here's the best part. The hook works even when you're silent. Once you plant the thought in their mind, it stays there. You don't have to do anything else. You've already made your presence known. That is the power of carefully chosen words. So I want you to try this today. Instead of sending another cliched message, make a hook. Keep it short, personal, and curious. Let it hang in the air and do the work for you, and then wait. Don't explain, don't chase, trust that your words are enough. And if you're still unsure, I'll remind you of this. People remember how you make them feel. A good hook makes them feel intrigued, special, and curious. It shifts the energy back to you, leaving them wondering why they ever let you slip into the background. If this strategy resonates with you, I want you to take action, like this video, and comment. Number 1 below if you're ready to start crafting messages they can't ignore. I want to know that you're committed to leveling up your communication and owning the conversation. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next part of this guide. There's more to come, and trust me, you don't want to miss it, because here's the truth. When you master the art of the hook, you'll never have to beg for attention again. Your words will linger, your presence will stand out, and they'll be the ones chasing you. It's time to stop feeling invisible and start being unforgettable 5. Play it cool, confidence over 5. Keep it cool. Having faith in desperation. Desperation, I want to know how often you think too much when someone doesn't pay attention to you. How often do you feel the need to jump in and explain yourself or send one more message to get their attention? To tell the truth is desperate. There are more whispers than you think. As soon as you give up your power, you're no longer alive. The sure of themselves, grounded version of yourself. You're the one who wants attention badly. But what if you could keep your cool instead of reacting emotionally? Keeping your cool doesn't mean acting like you don't care. It means knowing your worth so well that you don't need anyone else to confirm it. This basic truth is taught by Stoicism. You can't change how someone else acts, but you can change how you react. If you react with cool, collected confidence instead of panic, you send a clear message. I value myself enough not to need attention. Imagine that someone has ignored your message for hours or even days without sending a follow-up message to say, "Hey, did you see my message?" Even worse, you're mad at me and send me something I didn't expect. "I thought you'd be busy, so I'll catch up with you later." What's happening here is that you're acknowledging the situation without sounding angry or upset. You're calm, unfazed, and sure of yourself. You're sending them the message that their silence hasn't affected you. In fact, you've moved on with your day. And guess what? That confidence is magnetic. It makes them want to talk to you. I wonder why they aren't after me and why they seem so cool about it. Did I miss something? Here's another great line. I wanted to tell you something interesting, but it can wait. This isn't passive-aggressive, it's pure confidence. You're subtly telling them that you have something valuable to share but aren't in a hurry to beg for their time. You've turned the tables and now they're wondering what they wanted to say and why it doesn't seem urgent. Suddenly you're in charge of the conversation. Let me pause and ask how different your life would be if you stopped chasing what others think of you. How would it feel to carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their own worth? When you play it cool, you become that person. Of yourself, the one that doesn't ask for approval or confirmation, the version that says, I'm enough. Whether you see it or not, the truth is that people are drawn to emotionally stable people. Desperation turns people off. Confidence draws people in when you can handle violence with calm. Not being scared or upset about it gives a message that is much stronger than any words that are said. Not having to prove anything to you means I'm happy with who I am. Now let's talk about mirroring playing it cool, which also means matching their energy without getting angry. If they take hours to reply, you don't have to respond right away, and you don't have to be glued to your phone waiting for their attention. Allow yourself to delay your response, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. If they're taking their time, so can you. Remember that being too available sends the wrong message. People will think that you don't value your own time, so why should they? When you keep your cool, you show that your life is full of things to do and places to be, and you're not just waiting for them to respond. That kind of energy is attractive because it's rare. Imagine you're at an auction. The more desperate someone appears to win an item, the higher the price becomes. But when you act calm, composed, and slightly detached, you communicate value without saying a word. You don't beg to be chosen because you know your worth. You let your calm confidence speak for itself. Now, I want you to ask yourself, how many times have you lowered your standards to keep someone's attention? How often have you sent messages out of fear of losing someone who's already pulling away? Here's the hard truth. You cannot beg someone into valuing you. The more you chase, the more you confirm their indifference. But when you play it cool, you communicate something much stronger. I'm not here to convince you of my worth. That's your loss to realize this isn't about being cold or aloof. It's about showing emotional maturity and strength. You don't have to make someone feel bad for ignoring you. You simply let your calm, confident response show that their silence doesn't control you. That's the kind of energy that makes people sit up and take notice. Here's something to try the next time someone ignores you instead of overthinking or overreacting. Pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself that their silence doesn't define you. Then send a message like, no worries, I'll catch up with you another time. Short, light, confident. You're not explaining yourself and you're not seeking their approval. You're walking away with grace, and that speaks volumes. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop reacting emotionally and start responding with confidence? Are you ready to stop proving your worth and start showing it? If this message resonates with you, I want you to take action like this video and drop a comment below with the words, number 1. If you're ready to embrace confidence and calm as your new power moves, and if you haven't already hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next strategies that will completely change the way you approach conversations. Because here's the truth, playing it cool doesn't mean you care less. It means you value yourself more. And when you value yourself, others can't help but value you too. Keep your energy steady, your words calm, and your worth non-negotiable. You'll stop being ignored. Not because you demanded attention, but because your confidence made you impossible to overlook. Stay with me. We're not done yet. The next step is even more powerful, and trust me, you'll want to hear it 6. The flame of nostalgia lit the 6 again. When you feel nostalgic, you should reconnect with people you used to know. When you hear an old song, smell something, or find a picture from years ago, You instantly feel warm and transported to a time when things seemed simpler, closer, or more alive. That's the power of nostalgia. It goes against logic and hits you right in the heart, bringing up feelings you didn't even know were there. Imagine using the same power to reconnect with someone who has grown distant. When someone ignores you, it's easy to feel like the bond you once had has evaporated into thin air. You start to think that they don't remember you, don't care, or even worse, that you don't matter. But the truth is that people don't forget connections. They forget the feeling of them. Instead of sending messages that demand attention, send messages that remind them of what you shared. This isn't begging or chasing, it's gently bringing them back to a time when the connection was real and undeniable. When you're nostalgic, you don't ask, "Do you remember what we had?" Because I do remember that. Instead of writing, "Why haven't you replied? Is everything okay?" You send something like, "I just thought about the time we got lost and found that little cafe. It was still one of the best days of our lives." This message takes them back to that moment. Maybe they can still taste the coffee, hear the laughs, or feel the warmth of that shared experience. As an example, nostalgia paints the picture for them, leaving no room for defense or discomfort. It doesn't ask for anything in return. It just gives them the gift of remembering you, your relationship, and a better version of themselves. That funny thing you said at that party still makes me laugh. Why does this work? Because it's personal, specific, and connects your message to a shared moment that meant something, no matter how small. It reminds them that there was joy between you and that there were times they enjoyed just being with you. Let me ask you, when was the last time someone brought up something about you that made you feel seen, remembered, and valued? That's what nostalgia does. It doesn't push, it pulls. It reopens the door to connection in the softest, most human way. Now you might be wondering, what if they don't respond? What if the memory doesn't matter to them? That's where Stoicism comes in. When you send a nostalgic message, you're not trying to control their response in any way. You're just giving them a moment to connect with you and leaving it up to them. You're saying, "Remember this. It mattered to me." If it matters to them too, they'll respond. If it doesn't, you can walk away knowing that you were calm, confident, and kind. Here's something important to remember. People feel connected to emotions they may have buried or forgotten. Maybe they've been distant because of life, or maybe they've been ignoring you because they thought you didn't matter anymore. But when you remind them of a shared moment, you cut through all that noise. You don't argue or demand. You bring back a memory they can't ignore. Let's go a little deeper. When you reference a shared experience, you're not just reminding them of a moment, you're also remembering a feeling. It could be joy, laughter, excitement, or comfort. Whatever it was, nostalgia brings it back to them in a way that doesn't feel forced. For example, "I just remembered how calm you were during that chaos at work, and I always admired that about you." This isn't just nostalgia. When you show appreciation, you remind them of their strengths and of a time when they felt seen and valued. People forget their best qualities until someone brings them back to life. Nostalgia doesn't just remind them of you, it reminds them of a version of themselves they liked being, and that's powerful. Now let me be clear, this isn't about controlling someone's feelings. Stoicism tells us to be honest, speak our truth, and let go of things we can't change. You're not trying to trick them into caring when you send a nostalgic message. You're just wanting to remember them of something that was real. I remember, and maybe you do too. So I dare you to do this the next time you want to send a defensive or needy message. Pause and think of a time when you felt close to that person, whether it was something funny, important, or emotional. Write them a short, thoughtful message that asks them to remember too. Don't stress. Keep it real. And most importantly, don't base your worth on what they say. Think about how many times you've forgotten how many times someone remembered something about you and made you feel special because of it. Nostalgia is a gift. When you give it, you show that you're thoughtful, confident, and rooted in who you are. You don't have to beg for their attention because you know the connection already existed. You're just holding up a mirror and asking, "Do you remember?" If this hits home for you, I want you to like this video and leave a comment below with the words number 1. You're ready to stop chasing and start making real human connections. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button so you don't miss the next tips that will completely change how you approach conversations in silence. Because here's the truth. Nostalgia is timeless. It brings out the best in you and them. When you learn to spark it with confidence, you'll no longer feel invisible. You'll remind them why they were there in the first place. From the start, it was unforgettable. We've come a long way together. Take charge of the silence and the connection. As we've gone through these steps, you've become more aware of how silence can speak louder than words, how subtlety can spark interest, and how calm confidence can change the whole dynamic. Each step has helped you reclaim your power and change how you approach connection. Let me remind you that you don't have to beg for attention to prove your worth. You're not here to chase after people who have forgotten your value. You're here to show up with confidence. Now that you have clarity and strength, when someone ignores you, you have a choice. You can act desperate or calm. You can let their silence hurt you or use it to show them how valuable they are. You can walk away knowing that you stood your ground and stayed true to yourself, because that's what self-respect looks like. Stoicism teaches us that we can only control our own reactions to other people's actions. These strategies aren't about making someone care, they're about making yourself impossible to ignore. By leaving clues that spark intrigue, pulling the rug out from under people, sparking nostalgia, and playing it cool with unwavering confidence, you're sending a strong message that you know your worth and won't settle for less. Let me leave you with this thought. The people who are worth your time and energy will notice your absence. They will feel the void when you stop chasing. Those who don't deserve your presence in the first place. So I ask you again, are you ready to stop begging for attention and start commanding it? Are you ready to become the version of yourself that doesn't need to chase because they know they are enough? If so, please like this video and leave a comment below with the words number 1. Say goodbye to overthinking and over-explaining today and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on more tools to master connection, confidence, and personal growth. Remember that your presence is not a given. It's a privilege. When you truly believe it, others can't help but believe it too. Stop chasing and start attracting, and watch as the right people lean in to meet you where you are. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I believe in you, your words, your deeds, and your presence. Now it's your turn to believe in yourself. You can do it. Let's keep growing together. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember that the quiet you own today will be respected tomorrow. Stay strong and sure of yourself.